Jason, what are your 5 favorite smells?
My girlfriend's perfume, the rain. You know what's a great smell is when you go to the golf course in the morning, fresh cut golf course.
Mm-hmm. The grass.
A fresh cut grass on the golf course.
Covered?
My grandmother's home.
Aww.
I like the smell of nighttime after a fresh snow.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I like coffee, fresh coffee.
Yeah.
The smell of fresh coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. And
Cool.
donuts, like my coffee shop.
Coffee and donuts.
Coffee and donuts. That
Ladies
is a
and-
great smell.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Mitchell's in the studio today, and those were a few of his favorite smells.
In a sexy, smelly coffee and donut type way. I don't know if you should sound sexy when you talk about, I love the smell of my grandmother's home.
Well, we'll
really
say that's
awkward.
a soft voice. It's a soft voice talking about his grandmother's home.
Just awkward and weird at the same time.
And then welcome to my show, awkward and weird at the same time.
Get ready for the real estate show that takes you across the barriers and into the danger zone. That Bitchin' Real Estate Podcast with your host, Tenacious T.
Well, thanks for that.
You're welcome. All right. So, on a serious note, you, my friend, are a master manifester. And I will never forget the first time I met you. It was 2013, and you were doing a panel at a restaurant in Desert Ridge.
Okay.
And I remember walking in, and there was a lot of people in the room, of course, even back then. And you were dressed so fine, sharply dressed, in a purposeful way, right? You were making not an entrance, but a statement about who you were, who you wanted to be, and what you were looking to do. And I was kind of blown away. And I think a lot of agents look at someone like you, the success you have, and they make assumptions.
Sure.
But in the long run, you have worked your ass off for what you have today.
That's true.
So you got licensed in 2006, and you now have 16 brokerages across the states?
I think we have 19 licensed states, and 17 that we're active in right now. Mm-hmm. I think there's 56 what we call MSAs, submarkets, geos, so 56 cities that we do business in right now.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing, going from a licensed agent in 2006 doing open houses to figuring out that it was all about relationships.
Well, that's everything.
Yeah.
It is. I was hopeful that my relationships would lead to us being able to have the trust and confidence to do what we do. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, while I was in the field producing, I was building behind the scenes kind of what I envisioned and how I envisioned it working, from a centralized platform to distribution to awareness, accountability, everything that it comes with it, training, coaching, making sure we had the best of the best in the fields in all of our markets. And it was a grueling effort.
Yes.
Because I had a model that really hadn't been done from a broker perspective or a team perspective.
Yes.
And so a lot of agents didn't quite get it. I remember I really started expanding the company in 2017. I had a few good years in the field here in Arizona on my own, and I started to get more and more opportunities with a couple partners that we had, and one main one.
Yes, which we'll cover in a little bit.
Yeah, and then I said, this is working here in Phoenix. I probably had maybe 15 agents at the time. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is working. I wonder if I could take this another, because every market has its limit of opportunity. And so I went down to Tucson, and I was going to Tucson, and I said, I might as well start here. It's close. And I had, at the time, I was utilizing Lawyer's Title as my title company. And Steve DeLaviaga, who was running that brand for Fidelity, said, hey, I'll help you. I'll line up a bunch of interviews for you. And he did.
So that's key, too, is being able to not only recognize when someone is offering you an opportunity or assistance, but it's grabbing hold of that hand and taking it.
Yeah, no one did. I came back to Phoenix. I interviewed like 30 people that day, or between those 2 days, and I thought for sure I could get 4 or 5 agents to kind of see my vision, what I'm working on, and I couldn't get one.
Right.
Not one. I remember I had agents that were doing like zero production. I'm like, but I like you, and I know I can help you, and they're just like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
And so I came back to Phoenix, and I was like, well, that did not go as planned.
Right.
And because it was a model that we were working on for several years here in Phoenix. That's how we really got to build a lot of the great talent that we have. And, the nice thing is there's so many of my agents that started with me from the very beginning that haven't left, or that we haven't parted ways. And it's a great feeling to know that you bring enough value to where even when you're making $500,000 plus in GCI, you're still not going anywhere because to leave this would be foolish type thing.
And real estate has a huge turnover. 80% of agents who get licensed do not renew their license in the first 2 years. They just give up. They get set in their ways and don't take the risks, don't push back the fear like you did, and seek to expand their vision.
Well, when I got back into real estate in 2010. And so I started new construction in Detroit. I did very well there. I had very good people backing me and rooting for me.
Yeah.
And I got put in some good positions.
And I do want to touch base on that really quickly.
Yeah,
because when I watched a few of your interviews, you didn't come from a background of money or success. You came from very humble beginnings in Detroit. Your mother was a single mother, correct? And at 15, you went into telemarketing.
I did.
And as a 15-year-old, getting on the phone and picking it up, that's intimidating enough. But you were the top sales guy in 6 months.
It was so fun. I loved that time of my life. Like, I did some jobs when I was really young that I had no business doing. And then, from things like, because we didn't have money, I have a great family, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have any silver spoon, that's for sure. But anyway, so I started my first job. I was counting cans. I was like 10 years old. So I'd ride my bike to a liquor store, and a party store, as we call it in Detroit, because you get 10 cents for every bottle or can you return. So my job was to take these disgusting cans and bottles and sort them out. And it was gross. And that was my first job, which, I was working illegally, essentially, right? Because I didn't have a worker's permit. You got to be 12. Right. And I was under 12. And then, I caddied at a golf club for a couple years. And then I worked at Burger King for a couple years, like a year and a half.
I did fast food. I did Arby's.
I was fun. My buddies worked there, so it was fun. I just loved going to work.
Right.
I did. I loved it. I loved going to work. Like, I just really enjoyed work. And then I started telemarketing, which is really where the sales thing came into play. And I worked there throughout college.
Yeah.
I'd come back in the summertime and I'd work my 3 months. I'd make the money I had and I'd go back to school. In school as a pizza delivery boy. I worked for Hungry Howie's.
And you went to Central Michigan University? What are they called? A Chippewa?
The Chippewas. Fire up chips, as they say. Yeah. Dan Marley's alma mater and a few other, we don't have a ton of fame up there, but it's a great little school.
How did you get through school? Did you have to do student loans?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yep. I paid my way through school. And, but I had a job at school, and I was a Hungry Howie's pizza delivery guy. So I did that during school, and then I came back home in the summertime, every summertime, and I worked the telemarketing job, which was awesome. I mean, I loved it. And at the time, it's funny because I think I was 15 when I started there. And
what did they say? What were you selling?
Well, so the guy that hired me, his name was Tony, right?
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was 2 years older than me because I was either a freshman or a sophomore at the time. And he said, I'm working this telemarketing company. All you do is you just try to get people to donate money to these charities. And I'm like, well, I could do that. Yeah. And so he introduces me, and you had to be 16, and I wasn't 16, but the guy that interviewed me, his name was Tony. He liked me for whatever reason. And he's like, I'll hire you, but you got to lie if anyone asks your age.
Of course.
I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Was he Italian?
Yeah, he was Italian. Yeah,
There you
Tony
go.
Leah. Yes, he was. Great guy. He taught me a lot. And so, anyway, I just loved it. And at the time, it's weird because you're talking 1995, 1996, something like that. Like, work was different then. And I remember, like, people smoking in the break room.
Yes.
And, like, we didn't have computers like we do now. So you got a phone book, and the job was rip through the phone book and call everybody you can.
Yep.
Manual dials. You know, there was no headset with
No.
none of that. None of it. And so it was really old school. And when we get a donation, we'd fill out a card. I'd go turn the card into what was called a verifier. They'd verify that I wasn't lying, that the
Right.
guy did commit.
Yeah.
And they'd send out his mail and he'd send back a donation. And that's what we did. And I just love being on the phones. Like I played sports in school, and to me, this was way more fun than going to play hockey or
Right.
going to play basketball or golf. Maybe not golf. I loved golf, but
Was
so when I'd get out of school at like 2:30, I'd just go right to work, and I'd
Yeah.
work till 10 o'clock. I loved it.
Was it a challenge to the mind as well? Almost like a stimulation to keep your mind busy? Because you are one of those people that is so driven. I can't even imagine you wanting to just chill and sit and do nothing.
I still have a problem with that. I do. It was more about money to me.
Okay.
You know, I was making money.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any.
Right.
And so to be able to like have money in my pocket and to make good money too, you know, it was awesome. And then when I got the hang of it and I started like seeing the leaderboard go up, it was just like, I didn't care about the money anymore. I just wanted to be number one.
Yep.
I worked a full-time job in school. You know, I was 15, 16. And I just wanted to beat everybody. But
Yeah.
I never wanted to beat anybody to like shove it in their face. I wanted to beat everybody to say, I just want to be number one.
Yeah.
And I want to always be number one.
Right.
And so it taught me the level of competition internally that you can do it. And because of that, I got some really good opportunities there.
Yes.
And even when I went back from school, you know, the money that they paid me to run the sales team when I came back from college every summer, you know, that was enough money to pay for my school for the whole year.
Wow.
Again, I worked up in school because I actually really liked that job. Everyone asked me
Right.
what was my favorite job. I said delivering pizzas for Hungry Howie's was my favorite job. It was so fun. I'd get in my car and I'd just bring pizza to people's houses.
Blare the music, bring the pizza. I mean, who
Dink.
doesn't smile when a pizza shows up,
That's
right?
what I'm saying, right?
Exactly.
Like, I was delivering good news. Here's your pizza. So, and I worked with a lot of my fraternity brothers there and everything too. So that was awesome. But yeah, I mean, I've been working my whole life. You know, I try to place my mind where I want to be, but I do it in ways to where, you know, even when I was selling here in Phoenix as much as I was, I never thought my first, second, third year I'd be the number one agent in Arizona.
Right.
My thought was I gotta be consistent with who I'm comparing myself to. And so I started comparing myself to those that were around my age. And then I remember my first tagline was number one agent under 30. And then my second tagline at like 32 was number one agent under 40. And then it was number one agent at Realty Executives. And then it was number one agent at my home group. And then it finally became number one agent in the state. But I mentally, like, I never set false expectations on myself that, you know, next year you're going to be the number one agent in the
Sure.
state of Arizona, because it wasn't realistic. So
Sure.
I try to do it to where things become reachable and obtainable. Even when we do our goals for our company, like, I don't want something that just is so out of reach.
It started to become numbers for you, didn't it? As far as you've already reached the number one position. Now I'm going to be the one that's going to cross $1 billion in sales. I'm going to be the one that crosses $2 billion in sales.
Yep.
I'm going to be the one who's going to build the brokerages across the country with my innovative ideas. It became more of that type of numbers game for you. Still going back to the competitive 15-year-old that was determined.
I wanted to, with the real estate side, I just knew that if we continued to build what we were building, that I could create a model that for whatever reason, the future of B2B in real estate was right around the corner, and I knew it. And when I was in it, I fell into it because of relationships.
Yes.
And then I started to see more people started to do it.
Yes.
And then so as we started innovating and building our platforms with what we have, I knew that more people were going to need it. But I wanted to be ahead of the curve, not behind it.
Right.
So that's why I went out and, you know, we opened all these states, because I knew that if I didn't do that and create a national footprint, so many of these companies, they want to work with people that have a national footprint, because
Right.
it's easier to do.
Yes.
Instead of just your local. And I would say that I think we were one of the pioneers when it came to that model as boots on the ground. You know, you have models out there where you have reload companies that have agents that are in a pool of distribution across the country, right?
Yes.
But they don't fall under a particular umbrella of a certain protocols. Like, this is the way it's done. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yes, there's rules and accountability, but if you follow the rules and have accountability and you can close deals,
Yes.
there's nowhere else that you can grow your business anywhere else. Because I
Right.
always wanted to lead. That was one of the things I always saw too with team leaders is I saw this constant turnover when it comes to teams. Like, why do so many agents leave these teams?
Right.
And it comes down to they don't provide enough value. Eventually agents
Yes.
say, you know, I'm sitting there giving you a certain amount of my commissions, but what are you really giving me?
Yeah.
And people, I see these team leaders that say, well, I give you a ton of leads. Well, you know, if you're going to give them a bunch of top of funnel leads that close at 1%, you're not giving them anything.
Right.
You're making them work on something that you won't even work on. So how
Correct.
is that fair to them?
Yes.
And so the value wasn't there. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to lead with value, because it's one thing to provide opportunity, but when you talk about currency, there's a difference between generic currency and high quality currency.
Correct.
And so I knew that if I kept my commitment, and I started grassroots, I started with Claire. You know Claire?
Yes.
Been my number
Fabulous
one agent.
lady.
As good as it gets, right? And as talented as it gets. And there's a reason she's been my number one agent from day
Yes.
one, right? She is relentless. But
She's accountable. She's driven. She's loyal.
she won't lose.
And she closes.
She won't lose.
She won't lose.
She won't lose. Like you just won't beat her. And so we share that commonality.
Mm-hmm.
We also share probably some bad traits too when it comes to like lack of paperwork and things like that. But no. So I started with Claire and I said, look, I'm not hiring another agent until I know that you have enough on your plate every month after month after
Right.
month, right?
Right.
Now keep in mind, Claire's been with me for 7 years now, and Claire's closed over 600 transactions in 7 years for me.
Wow.
You know, and which is crazy. You know, she
Yes.
averages 8-9 a month every month.
Just so you know, that's like 60 hours a week at least.
Oh gosh, yeah,
At least.
But it's in her personality
Right.
to be successful. But so I started with that, and then I got enough to where I was comfortable enough bringing on another buyer's agent, and so I brought on Stephanie Troy, and she did amazing. And I had this little army, and then we brought on somebody else, and so we had this little army in our. Because I remember when I left Realty Executives' office, I was still there. I opened up my first office, a JMG office in McCormick Ranch,
Yeah.
and I was still at Realty Executives. I was so nervous because
Yes.
it was my first time where I was like,
Oh, yeah. You've got an
signing a
office. You've
5-year
got
lease.
mouths to feed.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it was very nerve wracking. And that wasn't that long ago. You know, that was 2014, 13 or 14. And then I went over to MHG, which I had a great run there. And
Yes.
everybody was amazing to me there. I really enjoyed my time. You know what's funny though is that like, this industry is full of people that run their mouth when it comes to like, everyone wants to get involved in everyone's business and reasoning behind it. And I've never been that way.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
like I just stay in my lane. I don't go out of my box. I don't care to. It's not my business, right?
Right.
But I hear chatter. And, you know, a lot of people said, you know, had their own opinions as to why I decided to leave my home group.
Right.
And I left my home group because I left my home group. It had nothing to do with what my home group did or didn't do for me.
Right.
Right? Like
Right.
I couldn't ask for better people there.
And I think, again, this industry, even when I got into this industry, it was 2013, and I was not prepared for the type of atmosphere like you discussed, people getting into other people's business, and we make assumptions. And like I said, I've made many assumptions about the different people in this business, including you. And when you take the time to really look into that person, where they came from, you begin to recognize it isn't about anything around them. It's about you being driven to a legacy play, building a legacy for you, for your dream, for what you wanted to manifest. And everyone's been very helpful along the way, good relationships along the way. It was just time to move on.
Well, and you know, look, nothing lasts forever.
No.
And so that decision for me was a decision for my own business, and a decision that it was a very emotional decision.
Yes.
It was very emotional for not only myself, I know it was emotional for Mark and Jeremy and the people at my home group,
Yeah.
because we were a family.
Yeah.
And so whatever people had thought or suggested, no one knows what's really true and what's not true. The bottom line is that I made a decision that it was time for me to take my model
Yes.
and put it out there and do what I need to do. And everybody was super gracious. We were all upset about it.
Yeah.
I just had to do what I had to do and make a business decision. But nothing does last forever.
No.
But that doesn't mean, there's, you look back at like any anger or frustration. Nobody did anything wrong.
Right.
Like nobody did anything wrong. It was just time.
You grow, you change,
Yep.
you advance, or you don't advance and you end up fading away.
Yeah.
And you were ready to go take that next step.
Yeah, I was. And so for us, once we took that leap, it was really about now operationally as a brokerage now and fundamentally creating the process of brokerage along with process of team, which is weird because you got this hybrid in there. Like you have the brokerage now where you
Yes.
have other teams and you have individuals and then you have the team side, which is really the referral agents
Right.
that are really JMG. And then you have, JMRE, which is more the brokerage. In every market, you may find 5 or 6 JMG agents. You may find 10. You may find 3. It's where when we have enough opportunity to add more agents, we'll do it.
Yes.
But if we don't, we won't. Because
Right.
if I commit to you that I'm going to help you change your business for the better, and I'm going to provide you with these opportunities, and you get 1 or 2 a month, you sit there and say, well, this isn't what it was cracked up to be. And so I have a responsibility to make sure that the people that trust us to take a leap of faith to join our model,
Right.
that I hold up to my end of the bargain. And I always try to, and we usually do.
So it's kind of similar to when 7 years ago you looked at Claire and said, I'm not going to bring on another agent till I know you're so busy.
Same thing.
You've been able to scale that enough to expand across the country, but also maintain that if I'm not giving you enough, you need to let me know because I am here to give you enough to help you grow. My passion is to see you be just as successful as I am.
Of course. And it's always about other people. I mean, there's nothing that makes me more happy than to see, people on the leaderboard that you're like,
Yeah.
I knew you could do it.
Yeah.
There's pride with that. But there's a problem now because in a lot of markets, we have too much.
Right.
And so now it's a recruiting thing and a training because you can't just recruit and put people in the model because you have accountability to
Right.
partners.
Absolutely.
So even if you recruit somebody in January, they're not ready to go until April, May because they got to, look, and a lot of agents would be ready to go, but we do it our way.
Yes.
You got to get trained up. You got to prove you can close. So we take them through different partnerships that we know that before you get to these last 5, we at least have a pretty good idea that you're going to be successful at it
Yes.
because you've proven it. So
There's
it
a
works.
mindset that you teach, and I've been able to see you again speak a few times at different panels. And it's not just, okay, I'm going to make it, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to close 1 billion deals. It is, I believe in myself. Not only do I believe in myself, but I know when I show up at that door, I'm going to shake that person's hand, I'm going to get that listing. It's a mindset and accountability that you teach along with your innovative systems that you have. That's what you mean by you recruit someone in January, but it may take till April, because when you can teach that mindset, that psychology, then you know that agent is ready to fly.
Totally. And you know what else? It's hard. I remember at Pulte, my days at Pulte, my training there was, I did 4 months internship and I did 9 months training. So you consider that's 13 months of training, making no money, just training. And the reason that is my boss always told me, because he's like, Mitchell, I could put you on the floor right now and you'd probably outsell everybody.
Yeah.
But if I do that, then you won't learn what you need to learn because you won't go backwards. And that's kind of our model is I could let some agents go. And again, most markets, we have more referrals than we have agent count. Like some are getting 25, 30, that's way too much, right?
Yes.
And so we have to recruit, but we also have to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And I know that if I get you out there in the field and you're closing deals, but you still haven't quite learned, like when we talk about giving back and we talk about our, we call them bones, and we talk about, learning the tech stack and understanding why we do what we do and when you need to do it. If we just get you out there and start selling, you're going to be more reluctant to go backwards and do that because now you've been too busy over here, and over here is where you're making the money.
You got a taste of it.
We need to properly arm you
Yeah.
So when you are out there making money, you know how to do all this stuff first. Be like Claire. Like if I took Claire right now and tried to go backwards with her, and it would never work.
She wouldn't do it.
She couldn't. It wouldn't do her any good and wouldn't do me any good because now I'm pulling her from production. So before we get to this point, the ultimate point,
right,
let's make sure that we have all this dialed in first.
Take it like an athlete. They don't just jump into the game. They have a lot of training that they do first in order to refine their skills that they may have a natural talent at. You could take on an agent that's been doing it for 8 years, but there are certain aspects that you're refining because that's why your system works. That's why you have grown so substantially and why you're kicking ass when it comes to, I'm going to say it again, numbers count. Mm-hmm. And your agents show that because, again, they're refined agents. They're not just thrown out there and said, here you go.
They're now part of they all go through the same process. Mm-hmm. You know, it is. It's like a fraternity. You know, when you rush your rush class, your pledge class, you'll always remember that pledge class, right? Yeah. You'll always remember the agents that you went through JMG University with. Mm-hmm. You'll know the year that you came in and who came in with you. And then you build this culture around it. It's still something that we constantly are working on every day, is how to get better and how to improve, how to become more efficient. And the agents, though, for me, I want the agents that work under our umbrella to understand that our goal is very simple. We want to give you more value than anywhere that you would ever find. Not only have that, but have the following statement say, and it's not even close. Yeah. Like that's the goal. Yeah. Is to have agents that just know, like, granted, do we demand a little bit more of you? Yes, we do.
Yes.
Do you have to attend more classes and trainings? Yes, you do.
Yes.
Do you have to attend more meetings? Yeah, you do. Is there a little bit more work that we ask you to do when it comes to making sure that the process gets followed? Yes, but it's for a reason.
Right.
And once people get comfortable with that, agents do, and they start to weave their way through, all of a sudden, everything is easier because it is really efficient. It's just learning and being open to learning. Like, you know, when you're an independent agent in the field, everything's your way. You can do whatever you want to do. I have my own way of doing things. That's great. But now you got to do them our way.
Right.
You know, because we have checks and balances.
Right.
And we have an entire mission control team of 7 people that their only job is to make sure that every referral is followed up on, looking at the numbers, reassigning, communicating.
And you don't want to invest all of that time into someone that isn't willing to move forward in that. And let me refine that a little bit. I myself have had the opportunity to mentor some agents, and there's a point where you're so proud of the agent that you're mentoring, but then there's another point where you realize that you're actually dragging that person along.
Sure.
They're really not willing to do it. And I think that's a necessary due to be paid as a newer agent, and bringing someone on. If you're going to put that much effort into it, then they should bring it back to you as well.
I have 2 comments to that. My first one would be any agent that's relatively new that watches this, don't worry about becoming this mega agent or this luxury agent or making all this money. That'll come if you're good at what you do. Mm-hmm. The key is experience.
Yeah.
Get experience. I mean, my first, I don't even know how many years, I worked everything, right? Because I wanted to get good at my craft.
Yes.
And I liked being in the field. Mm-hmm. I didn't care if it was a rental. I didn't care if it was $100,000 purchase. It was fun.
Yeah.
You know, getting a deal done is awesome.
It is.
Helping people is awesome.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed the rush of that. I didn't care about the check. There's that side of it. And then the second point I'll make is a lot of agents have this perception that they work really hard, but they really don't know what hard work is.
Right.
And if you want to be really successful in one of the most competitive industries in the world, then you better have a work ethic that's second to none.
Right.
Like,
so true.
And I don't mean like, you know, people say, well, I got to the office today at 9 and I had this, and then I had a coffee meeting, and then I had lunch over here, and then I went and showed a few houses. I wrapped up around 3:30, 4 o'clock. That's a half a day to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're building that real estate career, you know, your Saturdays, you know, I went to lunch with my fiance or my wife, my whatever, and then we did this, and then I had to go show a few houses. Well, that's not a full Saturday in real estate, right?
No.
Now, not everybody needs to, but again, you don't have to be in real estate and everybody has to become number one or make $1 million+ a year. It's a great career and a great living. So you can take it as you want. But the agent I'm talking about is the one that always looks at it as it's not their fault. They're not where they're at. It's someone else's fault as to where they're at. Right.
The victim.
Oh yeah.
The victim mentality.
This happened and that happened and whatever. When really at the end of the day, everything is on you.
Yes.
When you get in this career.
Yeah.
No matter what you want to do, whether you want to be an awesome individual agent, start a team, open your own brokerage, whatever you want to do, sky's the limit. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But your successes and your limitations are based on those of your own traits inside. It has nothing to do. I never looked at anybody else and said, well, the reason that I didn't beat Walt Danley this year was because I got held back over because my home group wasn't backing me on this. Or like, there is no excuse.
Yeah.
I'm the only reason. Nobody else.
Absolutely, 100%.
Nobody.
You either wake up in the morning with a drive that you can't sit still and you want it so bad, that famous saying, you want success more than you want to breathe, literally. You don't care if you're drowning in work because you're thriving so much off of that success, or you just want to sit there and wait for it to come to you. It doesn't come to you.
There's a difference between passive work ethic and aggressive work ethic.
Yes.
And they separate the great from the good to the average to the poor.
Yeah.
All of it. Because if you wait for things to come to you in this business, you'll get some deals here and there. But if you go out and seek it, that's like, when I was in the field, I didn't care. I mean, in 2016, I think I did 120 some million in production. I was still doing open houses.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to.
I think I learned that from you. What was it? 25 open houses in 30 days, or there was something that on one of your panels, and I remember thinking, "Oh my God, he still does open houses." Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, you liked it too. You liked meeting those people.
I wanted to work. I wanted to win. I wanted to, it had nothing to do with anything except I just have to work today.
Yeah.
And I got to go find it.
Yeah.
And if there was 3-4 hours on a Saturday, why not go do an open house? Better than sitting at home.
That's what I call a burning heart. You had so much drive that you felt it not only in your mind, but every cell of your being in your heart. It burned to win. It burned to build this legacy.
Yeah. So, it's been an amazing ride, and I'm excited about what the future may hold and everything else coming with it. But again, for me, I want to make sure that the people in my operations team, my agents, that they know they have a leader that is in it with them every day, that cares as much as he cares, but also still works his butt off every single day.
That has been there, done that. Because every single thing that you have today is because you built it 100% on your own through recognizing opportunities in relationships, seeing a window early on that the B2B, the business to business, was a niche that hadn't been grabbed a hold of. And here you are today with those systems and processes ready to offer it to agents out there. What is the type of agent that can apply or that you're looking for exactly?
Well, it depends. I get shocked sometimes. Like agents that I think are going to knock it out of the park don't. And agents that that I'm like on the fence, I'm like, they just blow me away. And so it's really hard because you never know, because anybody can say anything. And we have a 3-step interview process. So they interview first with our recruiter, then they interview with their division president of whatever market that is.
Yeah.
And then they interview with their regional president. We have 2 of them. We have Scott and we have Jen. And if they make it through those 3, then we say, great, you can go through our training program, which is about 3 to 4 weeks of just learning our internal things, our technology and our process, our marketing department, our mission control team, all that stuff, just to get familiar with the company. Right. And then from there, we go in these sales series trainings, and then we start giving them opportunities. So it takes about a month or so before you start getting some at-bats.
Yes.
And we start them out slow. Are they communicating? Number one is communication.
Yes.
One of my great partners, who's one of my close friends, she always says communication is the ante to play. And I love that statement, because if you can't communicate, then all bets are off.
Right.
Because if you can't communicate with us from a corporate perspective, you're certainly not going to be able to communicate with the partners and the people that trust us to work with their clients. And that's the thing that we have. It's not my client, it's your client.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a tremendous amount of responsibility that our agents have to have in order to understand what we bring to the table, because it's not yes, they're Jason Mitchell Group clients, but they're really their clients.
Absolutely.
We just happen to be grateful enough to service them.
What a lot of agents don't realize is you are the face that they begin to trust. You are the one that the client turns to. And then you also are the one that keeps the entire deal together by communicating.
Communication.
With the lenders, with the title people, with the sellers or the buyers. You are the centerpiece of that deal.
That's right.
And that means communicating with everybody.
And if you're not willing to do that, then you can't be in this business.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, you just can't. And you can't determine when and how you decide to communicate either. Like, you don't just get to say, well, I'll deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah. My phone's off after 5. No, it's not.
It can't be.
No, it's not.
It can't be.
You've got a lender that may need to get a hold of you at 8:30 at night because you've got a signing in 3 days and they don't have the docs yet, and you've got to get on top of it.
My comment to that is, know what you're getting yourself into.
Yes.
Because it is an awesome career. It's full of endless potential, but you have to make sacrifices to be in this business. And if you're not willing to make those sacrifices, that's okay.
Yeah.
And you can still be in the business, but you're not going to be successful in the business. You
Right.
can be okay, you can be average, you can do transactions. But if you're going to be one of the tops, you have to make sacrifices.
Yes.
So for us, you know, I've been shocked at some of the agents that have worked out to become superstars, and then those that I thought were and end up not being. And a lot of times that comes down to ego. Like, people make like, what ends up happening every now and then is we're very transparent with our leaderboard. And so if you're in California, if you're in Texas, there's a state leaderboard, a marketplace leaderboard, and then there's the national leaderboard. And what happens is agents that come that have an ego and think they're very good and all these other things, and then all of a sudden they're not on the top, or they're not even in the middle, they're towards the bottom.
Right.
Month after month after month.
Yeah.
What they start doing is making excuses as to why they're not on top, because they're so good at what they do. Well, I have to, I have 3 meetings a month that I have to spend an hour at, or I didn't do this, I didn't do that. When
It's not my fault I had to film a podcast instead of service the client.
It's
right?
anything to make an excuse as to
Right?
why they're not number one or on the
Yeah.
top. And so they weed themselves out.
Yeah.
Because clearly it's not.
It's not you weeding them out. They're doing it to themselves.
Of course, because it's transparency,
Yes.
right? It's transparency in leadership and transparency when it comes to stack rankings. And so I like being transparent in the fact of everybody knows where everybody stands to push people to do better. But what's crazy, like in any sales organization, you have the people that are always at the top. You have the people that are always kind of in the middle, doing good.
Yeah.
And every now and then those people will have a great month, so they get up there. But then they, which is, that's typically, and then you have your bottom 10, 15% that are always at the bottom. And the goal is you got to constantly be replacing that bottom 15, 20%.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you turn your talent pool around fast enough to where even those that are mediocre within your population are actually really good in terms of overall population.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we try to do. And that's why we want transparency when it comes to our agents and how they're performing and how they're ranking.
Yeah.
So it's good.
And there's many different levels of success. The stay-at-home mom, she's a huge success. And the ones that are in that 10, 15% that kind of don't float towards the middle of the top, that is successful too. But what you are teaching is greatness.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. And that's why I say, like, everybody has a different, like, just to say that, you're not the top 10 agent in Scottsdale, but you still did 25 million last year. That's pretty awesome.
That's really good.
You know what I mean? Or
That's
even
really
if you did
good.
10.
Yeah.
It depends on everybody's definition of success.
Yes.
If you went from working at a job that you were making X amount of dollars at, and you took a leap of faith, and your first year in real estate, you sold 6 houses, that's success.
Yes.
And then the next year you do 12. So by definition, when I say our talent pools and stack ranking, again, I go back to not everybody's cut to be, the best of the best.
True.
It comes down to one thing. If you are satisfied with your efforts and you can honestly tell yourself,
yes,
I work really hard for what I have, and I'm not lazy. I go out, I work hard, but I also am in this career because I want to have an easier lifestyle, and I don't want to work 60 hours a week. But what I've chosen as part of my real estate career and how I am going to work, I'm working hard and I'm happy. As long as you're happy with
Yes.
yourself, that's all that matters.
Yes.
But it's the people that, what frustrates me is I'm a very harsh critic on myself because I don't look at others as a reason that I didn't get to here or there or whatever
Right.
the case is. But it's the people that take the opposite approach, that from the ones that say, I did work really hard, I'm proud of myself. And they know that internally that they're
Exactly.
being honest with themselves.
Exactly.
The other people that don't look at themselves and say, but wait a minute, I'm unhappy with myself, but it's not my fault
Right.
I'm unhappy with myself.
Right.
That's
It's not
where-
my fault.
That's where I get frustrated.
Exactly. I feel the same. I feel that 100%. And I love that.
Yeah.
I spoke earlier about you being a manifester. So when you were, I'm going to say younger, and even now, do you picture yourself 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Do you picture yourself exactly what you're doing, even down to what you're wearing, as far as being able to match that vision of who you're going to be and then backtrack and connect those dots? Do you vision yourself in the future?
Everything that I think about works backwards. So
More with this brilliant mind next week. Jason Mitchell and the famous questions.
Jason, what are your 5 favorite smells?
well, my 5 favorite smells are
That's awesome.